On today's Tech Help for Churches, streamlining the podcasting process. Hi, and welcome again to Tech Help for Churches. This is the show where every week I help you with new media, social media, just using the internet for your church. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. So I was thinking about all the times that I go through this huge process to do some podcasting, and that's after over 10 years of experience doing this. And it occurred to me that you might be fairly new and not figured out some of the shortcuts. So let me share with you some things that I've determined over the years, and we'll see if we can't save you some time, trouble, etc. So the first thing I want you to do is consider getting a space that's dedicated for podcasting. It saves you so much time and actually makes it so much easier to do if your equipment is always set up. So consider this. What if there's a corner of your office? What if there's an unused classroom? What if there's a storage closet that you haven't used anything in since, like 1982, that you could clean out and set up for podcasting? Then you just have to arrive and start. And that'll save you a lot of time over setting everything up and going from there. Now, what you can't see is I have lights that are set up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the camera that you're seeing me through, if you're watching this on YouTube, that camera is set up just as long. So I don't set everything up, do the show, then tear everything down. Basically, I put on my microphone, put on my headset, and I'm ready to go. So that saves me a lot of time and effort. The next thing I want you to do is consider your planning process. Now, there are some shows that, if you're doing commentary on news, if you're talking with a group about a Bible verse, doesn't require the same amount of planning as if you're delivering a sermon, for example. But planning will, in general, save you a bunch of time. So I want you to consider doing that. And along with that, make sure that you have notes. Now, it could be just as simple as bullet point notes. If we look at my iPad here, I don't know that you can make that out, but I do in fact have some bullet point notes for this show and some others that I'm recording, and that will save me some time. Now, I could go the extra mile. I could go ahead and not only make the notes, but script it out precisely and use a teleprompter. I've created some teleprompter software. I've built a teleprompter. It wouldn't be that hard for me to do. The problem is just taking the time on the front end to get that all set up and ready to go. But it could be that you're not particularly good at reading so that it doesn't sound like you're reading. If you read like this, then I think you need a lot more practice before you start doing reading from a teleprompter. It should sound natural. It shouldn't sound like you're reading. So just keep that in mind as you're going about this process. Next, I want you to consider giving yourself the grace of a live presentation. What do I mean by that? Well, consider that if you were in front of your church and you bumbled over a word, you wouldn't say, "Oh, stop, we got to start all over." Instead, you'd just correct yourself and move on, and you wouldn't think anything about it, unless it was like a really horrible mistake where you said something really embarrassing. But in general, if it's just a minor mistake, you'd correct yourself and move on. That's something that I think is a really great skill because it'll save you time and it saves you from the problem of perfectionism. The sometimes perfect is the enemy of good enough. Now, okay is the enemy of better, but perfect is the enemy of good enough. So I don't want you to strive to make something absolutely perfect and then not actually do it because you couldn't get it to be perfect. No, it's much better to just give yourself a little grace and move on. Next, when it comes to actually editing, it's much better to create templates. What do I mean by that? If you're doing this over and over again, you're going to have kind of a format to your show. Things that always start at the beginning, things that always end. And in your editor, you can create a template if your editor supports that, or do what I do. Just save your project under the name of the show and rip out the media you don't need every week right before you start editing. So edit, save, next week. Open up, take out last week's media, put in this week's media. That'll save you all kinds of time and trouble. You don't have to find the last week's media. You don't have to import it. It's already there. It's already trimmed. It's already on the timeline, ready to go. So that's what I would do as well. When it comes to posting your show, you could now use those notes that I was talking about before as your show notes. So they do double duty. So that will save you some time. Also, when it comes to making graphics, make graphic templates. You might notice that if you're watching this on YouTube, at least, I have kind of a blue slant with text over the foreground and then an image behind. That's a template that I made in Photoshop. So that's something that could save you some time. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every week. I just basically make it the same, but with a different image behind it. So what are some ideas that maybe you have come across that have saved you time and effort? Think about doing those. If you have any that I've missed, please leave them below the show notes and we'll go from there. If you like this show, notice that I went through all these techniques. You'd like my blog, so head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com, and there you can see all the other shows that I've done on this and similar topics. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with trinitydigitalmedia.com. Go out and change eternity. Oh, there you are. I just wanted to take just a second and tell you that if you were to subscribe and click the little bell icon to get the notifications, there might be some contests coming up that are only available to the people that watch the video within 24 hours. So go ahead, do that, and I think you'll be happy with some of the prizes.